Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to Indaba Africa, South Africa, Sawubona, Hoidag, Dumela Botswana, greetings to folks around the world. And today's topic is about South African Airways. Details emerged today about a rescue plan for South African Airways. Clearly not the rescue plan that the business rescue team has been working on, but more so an effort by Gordhan, the Minister of Public Enterprises. So in what I consider a half-baked rescue plan that will certainly fail for South African Airways, what will emerge is a greatly reduced, slimmed-down airline that will fail to deliver the services that South Africans need. South African Airlines fleet, which has already dropped to just 39 aircraft, in part because aircraft have been returned that were leased to it as part of a cost-saving measure. The fleet will be reduced to just 20 planes under this plan. But what about Mango, the low-cost discount airline that belongs to the South African Airways group? No discussion of that in the publicly available information. South African Airways staff will be cut from 4,500, which is down from over 5,000 already, to just 2,500 employees in what's left of this airline from this rescue plan. The state treasury, South African state treasury, has agreed to repay 16.4 billion rand to creditors. Well, that's good news for creditors, but where's that money going to come from? The treasury has no money. There's nothing in the vault. It's all gone. And the National Coronavirus Command Council's intentional effort to destroy South Africa's economy means that there will be no future funding there. There's very little left of South Africa's economy today, June 1st, 2020, as millions of South Africans who still have jobs went back to work, and some who may think they had jobs went back to work to see if there was actually a job there. The cost of this bailout is 21 billion rand in total. That's right, 21 billion rand. Hundreds of millions of dollars. In the first year, it will cost 8.1 billion rand. In the second year of the bailout, 7.5 billion rand. And the third year, a further 4.2 billion rand. Now, 21 billion rand sounds like a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen, but it only scratches the surface. Of that 21 billion rand, the government has committed to just 2 billion rand for working capital. In other words, a bankrupt airline that currently is not flying, that has no prospects, that owes billions of dollars, is going to get just 2 billion rand of seed capital to get itself started again. Yeah, 2 billion rand. Now, they said they could commit more, but they have committed up front in this plan to just 2 billion out of the 21 billion. So 19 billion goes elsewhere. 2 billion rand of working capital, 2 billion rand to retrench workers, to make workers redundant. So what's the purpose of saving the airline if we're going to fire half the staff? Now, to be fair, business rescue plans or Chapter 11 reorganizations here in the United States typically involve slimming down a company and making it more productive and more efficient. So that's not entirely a fair criticism. But the government has made it clear that its purpose is to save jobs. It's not saving jobs. Another entity rising like a phoenix from the flames could come back as a private enterprise and hire many of those people who already work for the South African Airways Group and for the airline back to work for a new airline. So those jobs are not going to go anywhere. What's being lost in this discussion, there's 9.7 million passengers that flew in 2019 with South African Airways and Mango. They're going to have to fly somewhere. With Comair also in business rescue, they're going to need a plane. In addition to the 2 billion working capital, 2 billion for retrenching workers, in other words, 2 billion to fire people, 600 million will be set aside, 600 million will be set aside for credit payments in the near term. So who does this help? Why are we rescuing South African Airways? This airline, which has sucked up billions of rand, billions of dollars over the past few decades, has not turned a profit since 2011, is bloated with patronage appointments. We see people like Dudu Myengi appointed to the South African Airways board, a person who just this past week was declared a delinquent for life. Yeah, that's right. Dudu Myengi, who once ran this airline into the ground, member of the South African Airways board for about a decade. It's a patronage machine for the South African government, for the ANC, the ruling ANC. But who's going to benefit from this? Well, the creditors are going to get repaid, so that's good news for creditors. It's always good when you loan money to someone that you actually see that money come back to you. Even if it's not with interest, at least get your money back. The 7,500 former employees of South African Airways Group, which is what the total will be when this plan goes into effect, doesn't work for them. They're without a job. And they have a state-owned carrier still competing in the marketplace, driving out private competition. What about the 9.7 million passengers that South African Airways and Mango fly? What are they going to do? With a fleet reduced by half, that means at least half the seats are gone. Whether it's for domestic or international travel, at least half the capacity to fly passengers around, half the revenue generating capacity of South African Airways, poof, up in smoke. So who benefits? Certainly not the employees, only a handful. Certainly not passengers or the taxpayer in South Africa or South Africans in general in this anti-market, anti-competitive effort to maintain and resuscitate a failed state-owned enterprise. The creditors, they come out all right. And of course, the African National Congress comes out all right. Why? Because SAA is a prestige pet. It's an ego. Owning a national airline is the wet dream of liberation parties and of totalitarian states the world over. It harkens back to an era when aviation was a rare commodity, when so few people could afford to travel, so few people traveled by air around the world, that state-owned airlines were prestige projects. That's what the case was under the National Party. SAA was a prestige project. It was a symbol of the National Party and of South Africa. And the ANC can't let go of its prestige project. It has to hang on. So how is it also helpful for the ANC? Well, it's a great place for them to park their cadres, to reward their cadres by either putting them on the board or hiring them in the company to do things. And we've seen this time and again. The most recent and clearest example is the court decision against Dudu Myengi, who had no business, any involvement whatsoever with South African Airways, and is greatly responsible for the dire straits that the airline was in before it went into business rescue in December 2019. So what's the answer, ladies and gentlemen? I return once again. Once South African Airways went into business rescue, there are only two options here. Liquidate, which is what the business rescuers were trying to do, but they've been interfered with in an illegitimate intrusion into the business rescue process by Pravin Gordhan, the Public Enterprises Minister. Liquidate or privatize. The reality is that millions of people, millions of passengers need to travel into, out of, and around South Africa. Someone's going to pick up that slack. It does not need to be a state-owned enterprise like the failed South African Airways. Sell its assets off, reorganize it as a new entity. Call it what you like. But stop intruding in the marketplace and stop ensuring equality of failed outcomes. That's what this is, the equality of failed outcomes. This is not something that's rescuable, not with government intrusion. You need a private-owned enterprise that is not controlled or affected by state intrusion in the marketplace or in the operation of the company. Those are the reasons that South African Airways has failed. That and a lack of vision and forethought from the leadership over the past 26 years of South African Airways, when it had a grand and unprecedented opportunity to expand its operations across the continent of Africa in countries where it was banned from traveling to previously under apartheid. Instead of taking advantage of that, it sat back and watched as other airlines have done that. Brussels Airlines, Ethiopian, Turkish Airlines have spread their wings. Even Kenya Airways, which is in trouble now, but the others I've mentioned have all increased their flights across Africa, thankfully making air travel in Africa more feasible, more practical, and more widely available for millions of people who travel across Africa. Having been one of them myself on multiple occasions, I'm grateful that these airlines have expanded in Africa in the absence of others. But state-owned airlines in Africa, with the exception of Ethiopian, are abject failures. Abject failures. Ethiopia is the exception. But if you look at Ethiopian, it may be state-owned enterprise, but it is run as a private corporation without interference from the government. If only the ANC could achieve that in South Africa, life would be far better for all South Africans, taxpayers, passengers, workers, and all those whose businesses support the ecosystem of South African Airways. But here we see it once again, ladies and gentlemen. Pravin Gordhan ought to consider tendering his resignation for his intrusion in this process. His job as public enterprises minister is not to ensure failed enterprises continue, but to oversee the state-owned enterprises that he's responsible for. South African Airways is business rescue. It should have fallen off his table. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy the content, I ask that you feel free to subscribe to the channel by pushing that subscription button right down there. Also, be sure to toggle the notifications so you get all notifications from my live streams and future videos. You're welcome to leave a comment, positive or negative. I appreciate your thoughts. And feel free to push that like button down there as it drives viewership. This has been an Indaba Africa production. This is Chris. Thank you for tuning in. South African Airways, when will the nightmare end?